video we'll look at restricting functions with not just x and y variables, but with other functions. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at the I that's right here. And let me go ahead and notice how I've, in terms of coloring the eye right now, I have kind of restricted it, but it really doesn't perfectly fit in there. What do I mean by that? Well, let me turn on the picture and let me come down to where the eye is. So I think, yes, this is the eye. So first off, let's say that the eye is a circle. And this works for circles, but it works for other functions as well. And I have restricted the domain, but let me come in here and first, I'm going to delete that. So there is what I thought represented the eye, right? A circle that represents the eye, but obviously we don't need the full circle. So one way to restrict is I could just restrict it by cutting the y values off, right? I could say it's that circle, but it's only the circle between, and I could come in here and put my curly brackets and say it's only between y from 1.9 to 1.77. But notice, and again, you can see that more, right? It's cutting that circle straight off. But I really actually have more I above and below that I'm missing by cutting it straight across with just a Y restriction. So if I'm focusing on the bottom down here, instead of restricting it by a straight line, I want to actually restrict it by, let's say, this curve that represents the kind of lower part of the lower, I don't even know what you call that, not the upper lid, but the lower part of your skin around the bottom of your eye. And that is, I've created it looks like a parabola right here, but let me show you the full parabola, right? So there's the parabola that I created for this lower part down here. And this is really what I want to restrict my eye by. So I want to actually change my restrictions to this parabola. So what you can do is right here, I'm going to turn it on and off, right? There's the parabola that I created for it. And I know that this right here, I'm going to copy and paste this. And then up here for my circle, instead of restricting it by just the y value, I'm going to restrict it by that function. So first, let me go ahead and I'm going to get rid of this altogether. And now we see the full circle, the full circle there. But if I want to stop the circle exactly where this black part of the parabola is, I am going to paste my equation in there. And I don't need the double squiggle. Whoops. That's exactly not what I want to have in here. I want to come down here. I am going to go Control, Copy. I'm going to come up here to my current restrictions, and I'm going to delete them. And you should see the full eye reappear. So there's the full eye. Now in here, I'm going to instead paste, Control Paste, that equation that's right here. And if you noticed, my eye color has disappeared because I'm restricting it to exactly and only that line. Instead now, I'm going to change my Y restrictions to being, well, first, let's try, how about less than that line? If I do less than that line, look what happens, right? My blue eye was everything that was, I'm circling right here, but now I have restricted it to being less than this parabola. So it's shading everything below it, which is the complete opposite of what I want. So I'm going to change that less than sign to a greater than sign, and then voila, we now have that part of the eye not just straight across, but really fitting right into this parabola here. And then the only thing I need to do is change that parabola so that it has a restriction on it, and I've already done that right there. And now the top part of my eye is still overlapping. So I could also put a restriction by those functions. I'm just going to come up here and do I want y to be greater than that parabola. I'm just going to add in a y less than, and that's about 1.96. And that's actually a pretty good fit for that eye. If I come back up here and turn the image off, you can see how that coloring, it's a little bit off right here. If I wanted to be more exact, again, I could come in with those functions there. But that's not a bad job in terms of coloring that eye by restricting, oh, that's weird that the coloring just changed, by restricting the domain. So again, let me show you that one more time, maybe outside of the picture. How about if I put in a circle? And I'm going to call that x minus 2 squared and plus y minus 8 all squared equals 3. Right, so here's a circle. And let's say I only want to have, if you can follow my cursor, this part of the circle, right? Only about half of it, but it's on a slant. Well, the first thing I would do is I would come in with a line that represents that slant. Let's say my slant looks something like this, if you can see where the cursor is. I would first come up with that equation. So let's say it's something like y equals 2x plus 4. And I'm keeping this pretty basic right now. If you wanted to have some other parabola curve in here or sine equation like this, you could do the same thing with those functions. So now again, I want to restrict my circle so that you're only seeing this part of it right here. Well, that means then I'm going to put my squiggle brackets to start my restriction right next to the circle, and then I will copy and paste that line right in there. Again, notice the circle has disappeared because I've just restricted the circle to being only on that line, right? So even if I get rid of that line, you're going to see nothing. But instead now I can either make this, and I'm going to purposely go the wrong way, less than, and see now the circle has only graphed below that line. Or what I had said we wanted was above that line, so I've changed it to a greater than. And now you can see that I'm getting only the circle above that line. And then if I don't want that line in there, I can just come right over here and make that invisible. So that's how you can restrict a function with another function. I hope that helps you in your Desmos project.